You know, it doesn't matter Republican or Democratic parties, they still are involved in crony capitalism. They still get the government involved in business where they should not. And so, yes, the Democrats give different money to different people, but lots of it Republicans give to different people. We're not going to give people money from the government. We're going to be, just like Donald Trump is saying, get involved in industry, make things work, bring America back. We're also, with regard to lots of things, with regard to the polarization, where he speaks out against it. He says, you know, there's no difference between Hillary Clinton and Cruz in so many ways. We're going to work together to do this. He says that we should not be involved using our military in all of these different causes and bring them back home. We will use our military very strongly. You know, I was in the Navy. I was in Vietnam. I've seen what happens when you support the military and when you don't. But we do not put our troops into Iraq and places like that. We're capturing that whole view of, hey, we're off the track. We're not going in the right direction. And then we will gather people together. I was in the Peace Corps. We care about people. We need to get that across to people that we do care about you. But like Henry Ford said, not my favorite person from a social standpoint, but he said something everybody should listen to, which is, hey, anyone that feels that they can thrive by relying on the government should talk to the American Indian. Look what it's done to them for the last 250 years. We care about you. We want good education for your children. We want you to choose where your government money is going to be spent to the education of your child. We will bring excellence to your children's education, just like they are in Milwaukee, etc. We stand for these sorts of things. We will galvanize that if we get our message out, and we will win this election. We certainly will.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So the question was, how do we attract Trump supporters? Well, first of all, Trump has about a third of the conservative base. Meanwhile, about 66% of the people in America identify as independents. So I'd start out by arguing with them, saying that voting Libertarian is not a wasted vote. Voting for Donald Trump is a wasted vote. If another candidate doesn't beat Donald Trump, one, we have a different problem, but two, Trump will defeat himself eventually. Now, what would Jack do to unite Americans and attract Trump supporters? Jack would introduce his new economic model, birth loop. It's new, it's innovative, nothing like it has ever been heard before. It targets the individual and gets government out of our lives. We don't need Donald Trump telling us what we can and cannot do. We need to take control of our own lives. Birth loop is the way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'm angry too, and all of you should be angry. Donald Trump stood up and said, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Well, good for him. At some point, though, the party will settle down and say, wow, that was fun. Now, how are we going to do it? I'm not sure he has the answers. We have the answers. I am truly mad. I am angry at nearly everything that my government has done to me and all of you and to my children, my friends, and my loved ones. We have the answers. We know what America is pissed off about. They're pissed off because we're paying taxes, we're getting nothing for it. I'm a mathematician. I can add and subtract, and I can show you a plan where we do not need the Internal Revenue Service or income taxes. And without excise taxes or any other kind of tax, we can have a balanced budget by having a pay-as-you-go. We drive 1.2 trillion miles a year, pay 63 cents per mile. That's what it costs us in our maintenance on our cars and the devaluation and so on. So if we took 10% of that for a road tax for every 1,000 miles you drove, $13 billion right there. Our park services, there are so many things, our ferries, our toll roads, and our tunnels. So we do not need that. We have an answer there. We know that the NSA, the FBI, and all 14 covert agencies are spying on the US government. They all report to the executive branch. We stop it. We know that the war on drugs has created nothing. It has not changed the drug use in America, the percentage of drug users, those who are addicted, nothing. It has done only one thing: to impose increased suffering and burdens on the American society at the cost of trillions of dollars. And the worst thing it has done is create the most brutal and vicious criminal organization ever to have seen in the world, and that is the Sinaloa cartel. So we have the answers, and there you have it. That's how we get Donald Trump's people.
Thank you very much. You know, I don't want to make America great again. I just want to let America be free again. How's that sound? You know, and therein lies the key, because we have to adopt the tactics of our enemies, not their philosophy. Donald Trump is a fantastic entertainer. So if we want to get Donald Trump's people on board, all we have to do is give them the old razzle-dazzle. And I'm a musical theater major, so I can still do a time step for the American people. I bet you I can charm them right up for libertarianism, because that's what I do. But you know, if you want to attack Donald Trump, you've got to be careful. You've got to think like Sun Tzu did. Don't attack the enemy where he's strong. Attack them where they're weak, because Donald Trump is the recipient of crony capitalism. You know, make him look like the bully that he is. You know, he tried to use eminent domain to push a woman out of her house so that he could have a car park for limos. You gotta go after them where they're weak. That's how you gotta do it. But you gotta be better. You better be a better song and dance man than Donald Trump. And I guarantee you that that is what I do best. You know, when you think about the type of a fight that we're going to have here, we're going to have a fight on two fronts, and that usually doesn't go very well. But the type of front we're going to fight is to appear as anti-establishment against the Hillary Clinton type people, which I think we can get those Bernie Sanders supporters. They believe in identity politics. I like someone because they're a woman. I like someone because they're a minority like me. I will be the first millennial to run for president. I will be the youngest presidential candidate in American history. I'll get those Bernie Sanders supporters because I will have a digital strategy like no other. Now, the evangelical conservatives, the people who are behind Donald Trump, they might not like me because I'd rather build a wall around Donald Trump and make Bernie Sanders pay for it, to be quite honest. But the reality is, guys, is that when they look at someone like myself, they'll see that I have a heart and that I love this country. They believe that Donald Trump loves this country. I love America, but I am a hardcore libertarian, and I promise you that the American people will trust me because I have honor and integrity. I will bring that to the ticket, and I think that the Trump supporters will come on board. Thank you for your time.
Donald Trump, gosh, I hate to even say the name, you know? But you gotta watch him. This is how we're gonna learn. This is how we're gonna beat him. Watching him, and I'm thinking about taking some pretty good acting classes. You know, he's way ahead of me though. He's got probably, what, 2 or 3 years or whatever that show is. He's got pretty good acting going on. He's got the anger vote going on. But we gotta come up with some simple logic. And simple logic could be just as simple as he doesn't have a hope in hell. Okay? He doesn't have a hope in hell against a one-man person as myself, a manufacturer, okay, a producer, a one-man campaign. How can he ever compete against that? Okay, this is a contest to him. All right, he just wants the power. Okay, he's already got his money. It's all about the power. It's all about trying to get across. Like, he cares for all these American people. And he's going to bring all these jobs back. I heard him on the Trump Tower. He goes, this is how I'm going to get all these companies come back. We're going to charge them 35% tax rate for any products come in if they don't come back on. Now, come on. The Congress makes the laws. Everybody knows that. Congress makes the law. The president just got the one duty: protect the Americans from domestic enemies and the foreign enemies. And he's too radical on that. We don't have to be a radical country. We're not a radical country. Okay? We're a great role model for the world. And Donald Trump, well, gosh, I just got to stop saying that name. Everybody trumps Donald Trump. You are the Trump. Okay? Everybody knows how to play cards. Everybody knows how to play spades and all that. You're the Trump. You're the vote that he wants, and that he's begging to get. So let's not give it to him.
Thank you very much.
I'll try to keep this continuity as best I can. Some of the things that came up during the answers were about the economy. The questions that were submitted dealt with national debt, Social Security, and tax structure. So I'd like for the candidates to explain their tax plan and explain how it would affect the national debt. Also, how you would appeal to voters that are concerned about the Social Security situation we have in this country, national debt in general. In order to be fair, instead of starting on each end, I'm going to start in the middle and work my way out, alternating, and we're going to start with Mr. McAfee.
I think before we can talk about taxes, we have to talk about expenses. Currently, our government spends $4 trillion plus dollars per year on a budget that provides the American citizens nothing but insecurity, spying, and a poor future. If we were to trim the federal budget, how can we do it? Can you think of any agencies out there that you could do without? I can think of very few that I actually need. What about the DEA, spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on the war on drugs? I think if we just disbanded it, I don't care what Congress wanted to do in terms of making laws, if there's nobody there to enforce it, tough luck. I don't know about the TSA. The TSA budget is $8 billion a year. 5.5 of that is in overhead, just pure overhead. Maintaining these machines that we walk through to be scanned with our hands in the air and our belts and shoes off while they're telling us that they're protecting us. Well, I've been in prison, and I promise you that's what it feels like to enter a prison. I do not feel protected, I feel like the enemy. What about the Department of Agriculture? $360 billion a year to pay farmers not to grow food. Not to grow food. $1.2 trillion a year for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Please take a look at where that money is going. It will hurt you. It will hurt your head and your heart. Department of Education, whose job is to set standards for schools, $90 billion a year for setting standards. I can do it, please, and pay me half as much. Every single element of the U.S. government is bloated, overburdened, inefficient, and we do not even need what they're telling us that we need. So I promise you, if anybody, give me someone with a 12th grade education, walk through what we're spending, I promise you, 75% of it would go away and you would not miss it. Here we go. I'm sorry to talk about taxes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So the question was about taxes in our economy. As far as taxes go, I can speak specifically to that. Jack believes in a descending flat tax. Currently, it would take about a 19% flat tax to balance our budget. Jack believes this is a little too high. He believes if we take new revenue coming into the government, take 50% of it and add to birth food programs, which I promise I'll explain, take 25% of it to pay down our debt, and take the other 25% to reduce the tax rates for you and I, we should be able to get our tax rate down to about 10 to 15%. As far as birth flu, I need to explain it to you. It'll be real simple and won't take but a minute. Most birth flu programs work the same way, so I'll start out with the basics. Birth flu. The foundational birth flu program targets the children at birth and works generationally in poverty. But I want you to think about what I'm about to say as a government program to end all other government programs. All right, I know this scares you as libertarians, but give me a chance. This is how it works. To generationally in poverty, when a baby is born, the government will create a bank account in his name, put in a lump sum of money. That child cannot touch that money for 25 years, so the banks will use it. The banks will pay that child an annual interest, and at the end of the 25 years, will pay that original lump sum back to the government. It's that simple, but let me tell you what just happened. For the first time ever, the government ran a program that broke even and effectively cost nothing because they get all their money back. The sound principles behind birth loop economics allows for banks to be stabilized with essentially what are long-term loans from the government at low interest rates. It's nothing new. Okay, the government already gives out loans. We're just modifying the terms and the structure to better benefit us, the people. What happens is at the age of 25, that child will have $50,000 free and clear in its name to do with as it wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Petersen.
I hate taxes. All taxes. The other day I got a letter in the mail that said, well, we think that you might have a Ford F-150 truck, so you better tell us that you've got a truck because we're going to sign a tax bill for you. And the government is demanding that I tell them that I have a truck. Why is it any of their damn business that I've got a truck? We need to cut all taxes. I don't want to introduce any new tax plans. I don't want a fair tax. All I want to do is cut the taxes we have right now. I will cut every single tax I can get. Now, you got to couple that with spending cuts so that I can give you your money back. And the way that I'm proposing to do that is to not try and say, I want to cut this program, or I want to cut this program. I want to cut all programs across the board. I want to give everybody in the government a 1% haircut. That's the penny plan. If we want to get back towards a balanced budget, we cut 1 penny out of every federal dollar. That's 1 penny out of every federal dollar, and we'll have a balanced budget in 5 years. We got to get this baby back on track. But when it comes to taxes, in the short term, before we can abolish the IRS and the income tax, which I absolutely support, I think we ought to go to a flat tax. That way at least you know how to do your taxes. Somewhere between 10 and 15% ought to be enough. It's good enough for God. It ought to be good enough for the federal government. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I don't want to pull the Jeb Bush and say, please clap. But I'll look for opportunities to cut taxes as much as I can. I will use the power of the veto to veto any bill which does not head towards a balanced budget. I promise you that. As President of the United States next year, I will guard your pocketbook, and I will defend libertarianism at every single opportunity. Thank you very much for your time.